Hey, what's going on, everybody? It's Brandon. Welcome back to Marotta Media. As I normally am with most movies that I review on YouTube, I am a little bit late on this one. But if it's a movie that I really want to talk about, I truly do not care how late I review it, unless it's like months after the fact. If it's just a few weeks, then I can live with that. Because I just had to review the latest installment in one of my all-time favorite franchises, Scream 6. Scream 6 picks up where Scream 5 left off. We follow the characters from the fifth movie, Sam, Tara, Mindy, and Chad, as they move to New York City away from Woodsboro. But when they get to the Big Apple, they realize that their past and Ghostface has followed them there. But like I said, guys, I am a huge fan of the Scream franchise. And I was actually very late to the game. I watched the first Scream movie around Halloween of 2021. And then I watched the next three in January of last year in preparation for Scream 5. And I love all five of them. I mean, don't get me wrong, some are weaker than others, particularly Scream 3. That is far and away the worst one. It's cheesy and it's not good in the grand scheme of things, but I still really enjoy it, and it's a lot of fun. I'm truly amazed just how consistent this franchise has stayed for 27 years, because the first Scream movie came out the year I was born, so it's as old as me. I wish I was that consistently good at anything. So needless to say, my expectations for Scream 6 were through the roof. And yeah, my expectations were met, because I truly think Scream 6 fucking rocks. This movie, once again, keeps this franchise consistently great. And it also makes it feel so fresh by bringing the characters and Ghostface to the Big Apple instead of Woodsboro. When I first saw Scream 6, I made a short review on TikTok afterwards, and in that review I said that this was the first time that the Scream franchise has branched out of Woodsboro, and that was not true at all. Because Scream 2 took place at the university that a lot of the characters went to. I guess I just assumed that university was in Woodsboro, but I could be wrong. It very well might be, but I really don't know. And Scream 3 took place in Los Angeles. So I don't know what I was thinking, but either way, this is the first movie that takes place in New York City. And I think it makes great use of the New York setting. These scenes that I'm about to mention are featured in the trailer, but they're so much better in the actual movie. There's some very intense scenes that take place in a subway and in a bodega. The bodega scene contains that now I would call infamous shot of Ghostface holding a shotgun, which a lot of people seem to have a problem with, but I don't know why, because it's awesome. And these scenes and other scenes are pretty brutal. This is easily the most bloody and violent Scream movie to date. And what I loved about Scream 6 is that it wastes absolutely no time getting right into the brutal kills, because there's a pretty bloody kill right at the beginning, within the first 5 minutes of the movie. But the characters that were introduced in Scream 5, as well as their acting portrayals, have also greatly improved in Scream 6. I heard a lot of criticism for the acting in Scream 5, particularly from Melissa Barrera, but I personally did not think the performances were that bad, and that includes Melissa Barrera's. I thought she was good in Scream 5. But in Scream 6, I think that this is like a star-making performance by her. And I had seen her in a few other things. This is now the third movie that she's featured in that I've watched. The first being In the Heights, which was one of my favorite movies of 2021. And then, of course, Scream 5 from last year. And you could definitely see that her acting between those three movies has definitely improved. Another decision that got a lot of criticism was making Melissa Barrera's character Sam the daughter of Billy Loomis, who was one of the killers in the first Scream movie. And personally, I didn't mind that choice. It gave these new characters connections to the legacy characters. They didn't just introduce these random people who have no connection to the characters we've been following for nearly 30 years now. And of course, there are other characters from the previous movies that make appearances in Scream 6, like Gale Weathers, of course, played by Courtney Cox, and Kirby Reed, played by Hayden Panettiere, makes a return from Scream 4. So it was nice seeing old faces who we hadn't seen in any other movies up until this point. But for the first time ever, we do not get an appearance from Sidney Prescott, played by Neve Campbell. Sidney has been the anchor for the previous 5 movies. She wasn't the main character in Scream 5, but she played a pretty important part in it. And it was confirmed a while ago that she wasn't going to be in this movie because she felt that the offer she got was disrespectful, which I can understand, but then shortly after that, there were rumors that she might be in it after all, so I was hoping those rumors would be true, but obviously they weren't because, yeah, she's not in this movie. But she is mentioned quite a few times. Even though she felt disrespected, I feel like they truly respected her in the movie itself because they acknowledge her existence and how important she was to this franchise. She wasn't completely ignored as if she didn't exist, which is more than I can say about how they treated Rocky in Creed 3, but that's a completely different story. And like all Scream movies, that meta humor is still here and as good as ever. There's another scene like there was in Scream 5 where Mindy, who knows an ungodly amount about horror movies, sits everybody down and explains what the plot is and how it's going to work and who the killer or killers might be. And I just find it so fun to watch because it's almost as if the movie is just winking at the audience saying, we know that we're in a movie. It's such a subtle, I guess, fourth wall break rather than something so unsubtle like looking directly into the camera. And of course, it all leads to a great, great third act. The last 20-25 minutes of this movie had me on the edge of my seat and very entertained. I honestly had a huge smile across my face the entire third act. And I won't get into spoilers, obviously, or tell you who the killer is, but I found the killer's motivation to make sense. And it was a nice change of pace from the killer's motivations just involving a movie that they wanted to finish. That's all I'll say regarding the motivations. I don't want to spoil anything for you, if you haven't seen it yet, that is. And now we're gonna get into my problems with Scream 6. The first being, it felt like a lot of Gale's character development was tossed out the window in this movie. Because over the 5 previous Scream movies, I thought Gale Weathers had some of the best character development of any character in the entire franchise. Because she started off as this very greedy, arrogant reporter, and then she became a very caring person by the 5th one. And at the very end of Scream 5, she mentions how she'll probably write a book about the whole thing. And everyone is expecting the book to be about the murders themselves and giving another Ghostface a platform that they desired to have. But she says at the end, no, I think I'm gonna write a book about a great man who used to be the sheriff in this small town. Of course, referring to Dewey, played by David Arquette, who died in the 5th movie. But at this movie, like right at the beginning, either Sam or Tara says to Gale, you said you weren't gonna write a book about the murders, but you went ahead and wrote a book about the murders anyway. So Gale just completely went back on what she said she was gonna do. Write a book about her now deceased ex-husband and best friend, and instead write about the murders themselves. I don't know, it just seemed like a total slap in the face to her character development. There's also a romance between 2 characters that I just did not care about. It was extremely underdeveloped, it came out of absolutely nowhere, and I just did not buy it for a second whenever it was on screen. And the last big issue I have is that Sam's backstory doesn't seem to be as expanded upon as it should be. Because in Scream 6, she starts going to therapy because she's the daughter of a serial killer, and she mentions that she's starting to have these tendencies. And she also mentions that killing her boyfriend Richie, played by Jack Quaid, at the end of the 5th movie felt right. Like she had no regrets doing it and she actually enjoyed it. And I thought that was interesting and I wanted to see where they would take that, but it doesn't really seem to go anywhere. The extent that it's mentioned is just that in that one therapy scene, and that's all we really know about it. Scream 7 is happening, so I would like to see where they take that storyline going forward. And this last thing is very nitpicky, but there is something that happens in the 3rd act that is absolutely impossible and in no way, shape, or form would happen in reality. I'll just say it happens to a character where literally the same thing happened to them in the 5th movie. If you've seen both movies, then you absolutely know what I'm talking about, but it was just so ridiculous. I'm like, there is no way that that happened twice. But all in all, Scream 6 was a fucking great movie and yet another great addition to the Scream franchise. I am perfectly comfortable saying that Scream is the greatest horror franchise of all time. When you stay consistently good to great through 6 movies over the course of 27 years, then you are doing something so unbelievably correct. I don't know what they're doing, but I hope they keep it up for the next one because I can't wait for it. Overall, I would give Scream 6 an 8 out of 10. Hey everybody, thank you so much for watching my review of Scream 6. If you guys like this movie, let me know what you thought about it. Was it your favorite Scream movie or was it your least favorite? If you guys like this review, be sure to hit that thumbs up and do not forget to subscribe. If you want to see my previous reviews, I will link those right over here. Other than that, I hope you all have a tremendous rest of your day. I will see you all next time.